What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a bit of track watch, what's been happening on the Port Adelaide track, what you've been seeing in the media, and some things to keep an eye on going into this pre-season and Christmas break. I do apologise for the few and far between of videos. Celebrated a birthday on the weekend, turning 29, so I'm getting into the veteran status years of life when it comes to the AFL terms. So it's fun, but it's nice to talk with you again and here to be talking about a few things that I've been reading up on and a few things that I wanted to bring to light today, especially with pre-season heating up and getting into the thick of it before the Christmas break. And we've heard many things about train-on players, positional changes, and some things to keep an eye on as well. So I thought, what a better way to do it? Chat with you guys and let's have a discussion about Port Adelaide's pre-season so far. It's definitely been a funny one for Port Adelaide's pre-season. You know, you keep an eye on other clubs and what they post and the structure of players and, you know, things that have been happening. And you always look at Port Adelaide and you think, oh yeah, there's a few big boys, a few things been hitting the gym. And you look over the Crows and Dan Curtin's grown a massive deal. And, you know, even Darcy Wilson from the Saints is looking huge. And you just look at our boys and it's like, it's still a bit small, still a bit skinny, and a bit like me actually. But, you know, there's been a few things that have come out of training and the track that has been a very positive slate to look forward to. And we've seen, you know, bigger blokes like Todd Marshall coming back from his Achilles and becoming bigger and stronger. You looked at someone like Jackson Mead, who looks absolutely phenomenal. Connor Rosie's in fantastic condition. We've heard from Will Lorenz just today about how he's been hitting the gym and been a gym rat and eating plenty. And it's good. It sounds like the younger guys are definitely committed to the cause and wanting to prove something to new coach Josh Carr. And it's definitely something I'm looking forward to. And speaking of people that need to prove something to Josh Carr and the football department and the players, we've got our 4 train-on players for 2025 6 pre-season, and 2 spots remain on the list, which is going to be a very interesting you know, sort of choice to make, really. And we know the high-profile one of that all is Jaden Stevenson, pick 6 in the 2018 draft, played 120 plus games for Collingwood, was a Rising Star winner and has been an integral part of the AFL before taking a year's break last year, and in the end went off to Ferntree Gully Football Club in Victoria to win you know, pretty much all the honours there and really make a point to prove that he loves football and he wants to play and he wants to be at the highest level. And we saw him go to North Melbourne and fall out of love with the game, and it's just been sort of a you know, sort of a high of fame and a low of the drop sort of situation that we see time and time again with youngsters who don't have the right sort of mental tools to sort of get through the AFL system. And I'm not saying they're weak or anything like that, and or anything in particular. It's more of a, they lose their way and it's very hard to come back. And I'm happy to hear that Port Adelaide are giving an opportunity to someone that has such a talent and such a high caliber of you know, tools in his repertoire that he could utilise on the field and training with a new coach, a new environment, a new state and everything different, a change, and really learning the grasp of what it's like to be a part of Port Adelaide. I think he's got a great opportunity to learn from the likes of Connor Rosie. I think he's got a great opportunity to learn from Josh Carr, and I feel like a different environment and one that's entering a new era like Port Adelaide, he could definitely be a part of. And by all reports, players are really enjoying him. The coach has been really impressed, and from what I've heard as well, that, you know, he's really lighting up the track and seems to have changed a few people's opinions as well coming into this one. I know it's been early doors and the train-on program goes all the way through to February, so there's a lot to prove and everything like that. But as a small forward and one, you know, we lose the likes of Rioli and you know, Jed McEntee goes out, and you're looking for someone to really prove a point in that role. Bring in Corey Durden and Jaden Stevenson wouldn't be a bad mix at all. And I think, you know, Jaden Stevenson has been a long kick. He's been someone that's led really well when he's played footy. You know, you've seen how talented he is when he was at the Pies and in a good system. So I really believe that he could have a great opportunity to be a part of Port Adelaide. And you know, going by the rest of the names that are on this list, you know, the youngsters in Blake Oud and Sean Benia, he's another type. He obviously overlooked in the draft this year. He's a midfielder. He's definitely been one that Port Adelaide have been keeping an eye on and didn't pick up in the pre-season draft. So you know, we saw Jack Watkins get that slot for Port. So B.O.B. Bob, I'm going to call him. Bob's got a great opportunity to see what he can do at Port Adelaide, and he's been really remarkable in terms of what he is, and he's an SA boy as well, so he's got nothing to lose, and I think that's the beauty of these SSP train-ons is they've got nothing to lose, they've got everything to gain, they can learn so much, they can see what it's like to train as a footballer in the AFL, they can be a part of, players like Zach Butters, Connor Rosie, Jason Horn-Francis, Mitch Georgiadis, and these boys who are leading from the front, and they could have a great opportunity. We've also seen Mitch Zutto, who's a Perth boy from WA. He's a small forward, had a fantastic year in the Waffle, and looks the goods, and definitely another small forward option if Jaden Stevenson didn't work out. It could be one to select, and Ballan O'Brien as well as a medium defender. And this is probably an area in our game that I think we really lack, and that's why we sort of threw Darcy Byrne-Jones back, and I'll get to another player in a second. We're looking for a small defender, and I think one to take on those one-on-one small forwards is a good shout, and I think he'd be one to look at. He's also an SA boy and 187 centimeters, which in the olden days that was really tall. But now it's if you're not a midfielder that's 195 centimeters, well, there's not really point playing in the midfield. So he'll be a one to look at as well. And I think all four have a great opportunity to really prove themselves. And I have no expectations on any of them. Actually, I think a lot of people would like and consider their choices. But I'm going to sit back, see what the boys do, and hopefully, I think in the best possible scenario, this SSP selection process is a real ball in the court to the coaches. This is one where there's not someone presenting a package of highlights and everything like that every single week about a player who's training. This is someone who's going to be inside the four walls, someone that's connecting with players, someone that's training and learning the program that they're wanting to adapt to. They're wanting to become an AFL footballer, and I think all of those motives, we can only sit here and go, oh, Jaden Stevenson, that's a name, I like that, he should be selected. No, this is a real selection process, and I think, it's one to watch and train on players of these caliber. We've seen it right across the league. People have been selected and picked up over the last couple of years since this change has been implemented, and it has worked out well. So it'll be interesting to see how all four go across the preseason. So a few other things I wanted to highlight across this track watch and what's been happening so far. A bit of a summary. We know Jackson Mead and Todd Marshall have been training as defenders. Whether this works out or not, I'm not sure. Jackson Mead is a small defender and Todd Marshall as a tall. Whether that's just because of the lack of players in the first instance of training, or having a different look at these players. I know Jackson Mead was playing in defence late last year and didn't really prove a lot. Todd Marshall, this rumour about him playing defence has been going on since he bloody injured his Achilles. So be interesting to see how that all pans out there. But it's one to keep an eye on if you're a Port fan heading down to Alberton. Let me know in the comments below what you've been seeing, what you've been thinking. I've also been hearing good things from Ewan McKinlay. He's been lighting up the track, came back really fit, and definitely is one to look out for going through the rest of the pre-season. And we know he was selected in the mid-season draft. And again, like these players that are picked up in these opportunities, mid-season, pre-season, SSP selections, they have a lot to gain, nothing to lose. And I think with Ewan McKinlay in particular, his last game, when he played against the Suns, it was fantastic to watch. And it was a really, really good way to see what these players have, and he has a lot, I think. So one to keep an eye on, and I think he'd be one that really suits under Josh Carr's ways as well, which would be nice. And the other one I wanted to mention, we've seen all these things about Connor Rosie playing down back, and we sort of could sense that would happen. Miles Bergman in the midfield, these different opportunities for players. We know they have great opportunities. Connor Rosie, you could say, would play forward, and I wouldn't care because he can light it up. So I can believe that. But one I wanted to watch is Rome Burgoyne. Now, we know he's not part of the SSP selections. He's a sample listed player, and to the surface level, that's like, oh, okay, no worries. He's just going to be training because he's part of the sample team. He's been part of the group, I guess, for the last 18 to 24 months now, and we keep thinking, oh, father-son selection, so he could definitely be selected, going into next year as well. We've seen the likes of Latrell Pickett going through the draft this year as part of our NGA Academy, wasn't good enough, didn't get selected, went back, found his way another way, and ended up being a top 15 pick in the draft. Ryan Burgoyne, I think, could be having a similar sort of career trajectory. You know, he's been training now, he's been part of the system, he obviously knows Jace and everything like that, and all family, it all matters. So he's definitely one to look out for mid-season, and if he's part of the mid-season pickup, then I definitely would be happy. He's another one opportunity. He looks a bit bigger than Jace as well. Jace has put on a bit of size, not gonna lie. He has put on a bit of size. But I think Rome could be a little bit of a different type, and be interesting to see how it goes. You obviously might see Dougie Cochran around the mark as well, going into obviously next year, with his potentially being the #1 pick. So yeah, that's a lot of what's happening on the track at the moment. And I just hope the boys are hitting the gym, training hard, looking good, looking fit, and don't eat too much over Christmas. Well, thanks for watching, Port fans. That is obviously Track Watch for the moment. We'll keep an eye on training and see how it's going across the next few weeks, heading into Christmas and everything like that. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new, for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content to come your way across the pre-season. We will be taking a bit of a break heading into Christmas. So not too long to go there, but thank you very much for the support for 2025. I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Thank you for watching. My name's Anthony, and as always, come ThePear.